In this video, I'm going to share my entire YouTube video editing process with you guys. I feel like I want you guys to know what I'm doing with all this time. I think editing takes about 50% of my time and energy when it comes to YouTube as my job. And also for any aspiring content creators or current content creators out there, I feel like I've picked up a lot of tips and wisdom that may help you as you're editing your own videos. I edit my videos using Adobe Premiere Pro, and I'm pretty sure most of the techniques that I use can be accomplished in Final Cut, iMovie, whatever you have. So I'm going to be editing a skate vlog in this video. It's basically a mix of skateboarding clips, vlog content, and sometimes a discussion topic. This is definitely the most complex type of video I edit for my channel. These videos, truth be told, take me about 15 to 20 hours to edit. And last thing before we get into editing, big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, supporting all this hard work that I do. It means a lot. We will talk about Skillshare a little bit later in the video. Let's get into editing. So my editing process kind of begins before I even get into Premiere with file organization. Basically, every single YouTube video I make has its own folder on my computer. In this folder, I will put all the footage, all the different images, sounds, assets, everything that is going to make up this video. It all goes into that folder. I'm gonna drag it over to this sidebar on Finder here in the favorites, so then I don't have to go searching for that folder. Saves a lot of time. Then I'm gonna start my project in Premiere Pro, and it feels kind of stupid to even mention this, but a lot of people don't name their projects, like they just leave it as untitled. But I think it's super important for it to be obvious what all your files are. So I name my Premiere project something that at least vaguely represents what video I'm editing. And I save that Premiere file in that video folder as well. So everything is in this nice bundle. And now it's really time to start. So basically the next thing I do is I grab all those folders with all the footage and I dump them into Premiere. I color code groups of footage. That way when I dump all this footage into the timeline, it's not just a sea of footage, there are colors representing different groups of footage. So this seriously makes the whole project feel way more manageable when you can already visually start to organize how the video is going to look. This footage is about 3 hours long to begin with. As a skateboarder, sometimes a singular trick can take me a full hour. So it's not necessarily as crazy as it seems, but I do have to sort through 2 to 3 hours of footage on average and turn that into a cohesive 15-minute video. A lot of people do not actually put all their footage into the timeline, but rather they sort through their footage one by one and literally pick and choose what footage they're actually going to put in the video and kind of do it that way. But when the footage is in the timeline, you can scroll through it and I feel like I can look through it much faster. So that's just how I like to do it. I call it the dump and dwindle method. It's kind of what it is. What's the definition of dwindle? To become steadily less. Yeah, dump and dwindle. It's kind of funny. When I'm looking at a 3-hour long video, I can't start actually editing it. It's just too overwhelming. Now it's time for the rough cut. So here's where I'm literally going to sift through this entire 3-hour chunk of footage and essentially delete all the nonsense. So when I'm working with a talking clip, I will delete all the pauses. Rough cutting the skating clips is what takes the longest time. Typically, I'm filming myself skateboarding using my tripod. I actually scroll through. I delete all of the areas where there is no skating at all, but I do leave in every single attempt as far as the rough cut goes. And I will also leave in, if I hear any people talking in the background, I will leave that in, because sometimes the camera captures some funny or genuine moments where even if you can't hear it too well, I could put subtitles on it and that just adds some personality to the video. If there is a trick that I was trying for a particularly long time, I will actually duplicate that clip and speed one of them up to about 2000%, just so it's a really, really fast time lapse of all those attempts. Because when I do battle a trick, I don't like to keep in every single attempt, but I like to show how long it took me. So if I make that time lapse at this point in the editing process, it saves me a little bit of time later on. As I'm rough cutting, I will actually further categorize by color. And I've kind of developed a consistent system. I will use a green label for iPhone or GoPro footage, light blue label for B-roll, orange label for skateboarding, blue label for talking, red label for footage that I'm probably going to delete, but I'm still holding on to it because I'm not sure if I want to delete it yet. Yellow label for overlay video footage, pink label for overlay text or images, purple label for transitions, and I use a light green label for audio. So this is generally my color key. It's really nice to see a color and immediately know what that piece of footage is. Makes me feel less overwhelmed by the editing process. And I gotta mention keyboard shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts are absolute game changer. I can cut clips, trim clips, do essentially everything I need without lifting my hands off the keyboard. My primary ones are for cutting and trimming clips, it's an absolute game changer. After I rough cut all my footage, it's much less overwhelming, and now I feel mentally in a place where I can like actually start editing this video. I literally cannot start until I find the first song. I just like sit here like an anxious potato wondering how this is ever going to turn into a YouTube video. But once I find the first song, I'm good, and then I really start cranking away. So I use MusicBed to find most of my music. Everything on there is good for monetization. I've also used a lot of small SoundCloud artists in the past. I would just always make sure to ask them permission. And essentially, I just vibe out what footage I'm working with, what the mood is. The music selection process can take a surprising amount of time, but something that has helped significantly is I made a spreadsheet with my favorite MusicBed artists as well as some SoundCloud artists. I even have a vibe description. Whatever footage I'm working with, I can look through the vibe descriptions, pick one that matches, click the link to the artist, find a song that works good, and then boom, I am on my way. So typically my video is going to be starting with an intro, which is me blabbering, and behind talking I always put an instrumental. And obviously putting music behind talking, there's not much to it. Usually in Premiere I normalize the audio peaks to -20 dB if it's below talking, and anything else I will normalize to -5 dB. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, like when I'm really getting cracking into it, I will actually open up in Premiere the previous video project, because in almost all of my videos I use some similar assets. So for example, there are two main text styles that I use a lot. I have this one font which is like my main font, and then I have a different font for subtitles. So instead of literally customizing these fonts from scratch each time I need them in a new video, by having that previous project open, I can just go in, copy the text, and then paste it into the current project. I can also copy sounds in from there, etc. It's very, very convenient. And on that note, I actually have a folder called YouTube right now with all my most commonly used assets. The most important ones being images. This is where I have arrows that I put on the screen all the time, circles, check marks, stuff like that, as well as sounds. So there's that popping sound. I'll do that when I put an image or text on the screen. I have this glitch sound that I use a lot, particularly when putting that retro style font on the screen. It saves a huge amount of time to have these common assets in the same place. And by using them regularly, I don't even need to think about it sometimes. I know exactly which sound needs to go in which scenario. So it can all happen very, very quickly. So for the intro and other vlogging clips, now that I'm done with the rough cut, I will really make sure I'm cutting out any repetition, any incoherent stuff. I try to make the talking sections of my vlog to the point as much as possible. Another thing I do to kind of keep the video entertaining when I'm talking for a long time, which is kind of happening in this video as you're watching it, I put as many visual references as humanly possible. Really, I'm always looking for ways to make the video more engaging as I'm talking. Something I do sometimes but not too often is actually like zoom in on my face and or pause the music, and this can either be to emphasize something I'm saying that I feel like is important, or it can be for a humorous effect. I'm sure you see a bunch of YouTubers doing this. If I'm not working with talking footage, it's probably B-roll or skateboarding. So at this point, I really edit to the music. I let the music lead the way when I'm editing skating and B-roll. The music has beats, and if you just listen, you'll notice these points. You can also see them in the audio waveform in Premiere where there are peaks. Those are the points where I will cut a clip. I'll try to time my skateboard landing to the beat. When I do B-roll, I definitely do this, try to match it to the beat of the music. It just makes the visuals line up with the music and makes such a pleasant viewing experience. And I will edit to the music through the whole skateboarding portion of the video. I definitely try to limit the amount of run up and roll away. Again, this is about keeping the video engaging. Nobody wants to see me rolling away from a trick for 5 whole seconds. There's just no reason. I definitely try to keep it quick, keep it jumpy. Like I said in the rough cut, if I really battled a trick, I already have that time lapse ready. And then show like 3 to 10 at most attempts, kind of showing the progression of the trick, and then I'll show the land, and then maybe show it again in slow motion. I definitely don't overdo it with the slow motion as well, only those tricks that I'm really proud of. And like I said earlier, a lot of the times my tripod captures some interesting conversation in the background, but it's way too quiet to hear on your own. So in this case, I will use that subtitle font. Just type out the words, bring the audio down to -20 dB, definitely crossfade between the audio so it's a smooth transition. I'll let the talking happen, then I'll bring the audio back up and the skating will continue. Usually during the skate portions is where something random and funny might pop into my brain that I'll edit into the video. I guess I would call this like a meme. I never force this. It just when it literally will pop in my brain and I'll just do it. Something that I think is really, really important for my videos is I go through every single clip and I add motion. This takes a lot of time, but I really do think it's worth it. It's just not natural to watch a static skateboarding clip, in my opinion. It's not as engaging as it would be if the frame was moving with the skateboard. This can be literally tracking the motion of my body through each individual clip, or sometimes what I'll do is if I'm seshing one obstacle, take the whole group of clips, make a nested clip, which means essentially turn them into one clip, and then slowly zoom in that nested clip. That creates a cool effect where I'm hitting the ledge over and over again and the whole thing is slowly zooming in. And a huge time saver when I'm going through this process is the ability to copy and paste effects in Premiere Pro. So say I'm creating motion on a ledge trick where I'm going this way. If the next ledge trick is the same direction, I don't have to go through and keyframe it again. I can just copy and paste the motion I did on the first clip. I hope that makes sense. This applies to all sorts of things too. Any multiple clips where I am going to apply the same effect, I'm not going to manually type out the effect attributes each time. I'm just going to do it once and then copy and paste the effects. So at this point, I think it's time for a little vibe check. I think it's really important to take real breaks. Save your project, quit Premiere, eat lunch, don't even think about the video. That will kind of re-energize you to work harder when you're done with your break. I really try to edit when it's raining because that's such cozy work vibes. If I do have to edit on a beautiful day, I will allow myself to skate for an hour or two, because if I don't let myself skate, I'm just going to be miserable. Speaking of breaks, before we get through the thick of editing this video, let's talk about our sponsor, Skillshare. So I feel like when you have something you want to accomplish, it can often just be so daunting that you have no idea how to get started. And I think that's a shame, because my philosophy on learning anything, whether it's a skateboarding trick, becoming a YouTube creator, learning how to design, learning how to code, anything, I think the most important thing you can do is take step one. And I believe that Skillshare can be your step one for a lot of things. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes covering dozens of creative and entrepreneurial skills. The premium membership gives you unlimited access to Skillshare, so you can join the classes and communities that are just right for you. So something I've been looking to learn is how to get better at podcasting. That's why I have this microphone. And Skillshare has a class called How to Make a Podcast. Plan, record, and launch with success. Everything is broken down into chapters. I'm really excited to dive into this. And it's awesome that Skillshare gives you an easy way to start learning these things with incredible courses, giving you that confidence to take that first step towards accomplishing whatever it is you want to accomplish. With the annual subscription, Skillshare is less than $10 a month, which is a great price, especially compared to in-person classes. And because Skillshare is sponsoring this video, you can get 2 months for free just by signing up at the link in the description. So thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video. I really do think it's dope. I mean, I've been trying to figure out how to continue learning after college, and it's cool that the internet has places like Skillshare where you can kind of keep fueling your curiosity and desire to learn. If I am wearing my headphones, sometimes I'll play ASMR in the background, and that slaps. Having that while I'm editing can sometimes really put me in the flow. It's kind of sick. I have my computer on an elevated surface, and the whole purpose of that is to improve my posture. Since I'm sitting down and editing for hours and hours, it's not necessarily more comfortable, but at least mentally I know I'm not up my back. Last thing, Starbucks or public workspaces. You have put your whole mind and body into a working environment, and that can really help you focus and motivate you. If I'm working in here all day, it's very likely that I'll end up taking a nap. And last thing, coffee and snacks can really keep me going. So for a skateboarding vlog, that's how I edit the talking, and that's how I edit the skating and the b-roll. That's pretty much all the types of content there is, but there can often be a lot of it. The next challenge is transitioning between clips. I take a very simple approach to this. Sometimes I'll literally just use that TV static noise, yeah, like that. Put that between 2 different sessions. If I feel like the transition needs a little bit more context, I oftentimes use this blue screen with some explaining text over it, just long enough for the viewer to read the text, and then I will continue into the next portion. Or if it's a less abrupt transition, I'll just kind of fade to black and then fade back into the next portion. And I will just repeat what I described until it's all done. And by this point, I am borderline deceased. If I have the time and energy, I'll do some color correction. I'll create an adjustment layer, which basically you put over all your clips in Premiere, and any effects you put on it, it will apply to all the clips below it on the timeline. So I'll put an adjustment layer over one session, apply some simple color corrections, just mess with things, see if it looks good. Sometimes I like to mess with the hue saturation curves. By this point, my video is hopefully only 15 to 20 minutes long, so I just go through the whole thing again, make minor adjustments, and then as a YouTuber, there's still a lot more for me to do. Upload topic and title, make sure the thumbnail is good, metadata, SEO, other stuff. But that's besides the point of this video. That is my editing process, and it takes a very, very long time, which is funny because it almost seems simpler when I talk about it out loud. But I hope that helps some of you guys. Hope it was interesting for you to know what I spend about half of my energy doing. All right, guys, thank you for watching. I will see you next week with a skateboarding vlog that I will edit just like this. And thank you again, Skillshare, for sponsoring. Catch y'all next time. Different folders for, why can't I coherently say this? Yeah.